얼마 전 세상을 떠난 토마스 혼 박사는 살아생전 놀라운 계시를 받게 됩니다. 그 중에 하나가 바로 교황 베네딕토 16세가 은퇴한다는 것이었죠. 그의 계시는 적중하였고 이후 그가 말한 대로 예수의 출신의 교황 프란치스코가 차기 교황으로 선출됩니다. 토마스 혼 박사는 교황에 대한 내용을 꿈에서 보았다고 했습니다. 정보 신뢰도에 대한 문제로 인해 당시에는 이런 이야기를 솔직하게 이야기할 수가 없었다고 하죠. 그런 토마스 혼 박사에게 다시 한번 강력한 꿈속의 계시가 나타납니다. 바로 아포피스 소행성 충돌입니다. 토마스 혼 박사는 해당 소행성이 우리가 계시록 8장 11절에서 읽게 되는 수기라고 보았습니다. 아포피스 소행성은 2004년 나사에서 발견한 소행성으로 이집트 신화의 혼돈의 신에서 따온 이름입니다. 아포피스 소행성은 각각 2029년, 2036년, 2068년 세 차례에 걸쳐서 지구에 근접할 것으로 알려져 있습니다. 이제 해당 키워드로 검색을 해보시면 지구와 충돌한다는 내용은 없고 하나같이 지구를 아슬아슬하게 비켜간다고 이야기하는 전문가, 각종 과학 채널들의 이야기를 듣게 됩니다. 인공위성보다도 낮은 고도로 살짝 스쳐간다고 전하죠. 하지만 토마스 혼 박사는 이러한 내용이 실제로는 정부와 나사 측의 은폐일 수 있다고 말하면서 다양한 전문가들의 견해를 첨부한 책을 출간하게 됩니다. 그 중에는 세계 100대 비평사상가에도 줄곧 이름을 올린 네이선 미어볼드와 같은 사람도 있죠. 그는 나사의 아포피스 행성 궤도 계산을 정면으로 반박하는 비평 논문을 게재하기도 했습니다. 천체 물리학자 닐 디그레스는 아포피스가 지구와 대단히 가까워질 것으로 보았습니다. 또한 닐 이외에도 천문학자들은 현 시점에서 우리가 소행성의 궤도를 계산하는 것은 앞으로 수년 동안 어떠한 변수가 개입될지 알 수가 없기 때문에 생각만큼 정확하지 않을 수 있다고 이야기합니다. 실제로 나사 측이 발표한 연구자료에 따르면 태양의 활동이 소행성 궤도 계산에 있어서 하나의 변수가 될 수 있다고 이야기합니다. 또한 지금까지 과학계는 태양 흑점 활동을 정확하게 예측한 적이 별로 없습니다. 해당 사실들을 종합해보면 아포피스 소행성에 대한 모든 예측은 어디까지나 하나의 시나리오일 뿐으로 태양 활동 하나만 바뀌어도 해당 예측은 얼마든지 뒤바뀔 수 있다는 사실을 알게 됩니다. 만약 아포피스가 지구를 강타한다면 2029년 4월 13일 금요일 미국과 멕시코 사이 캐스케디아 단층지대에 낙하할 것으로 추정됩니다.
I did all of this research and came to believe that in fact, of all dates, Friday the 13th, April 2029, Apophis is going to strike the Earth. Now, the facts around this asteroid are astonishing. It is 370 meters wide, 1,200 feet wide. Or to put that into more of a mental gymnastic, it's 4 NFL football fields wide. It weighs an estimated 20 million metric tons. It is traveling at 28,000 miles per hour. And if, as I predict, it impacts the Earth in 2029, it is literally going to be equivalent to, scientists say, 65,000 atomic bombs the size of the ones that we dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima at the end of World War II that literally sunk the Japanese island. They say that at a minimum, tens of millions of people will die, and possibly billions of people are going to die. NASA says that if this rock does hit the Earth, it's going to come down probably around the border of Mexico and California, so a highly densely populated area. So you can understand why this was such a terrifying vision to me. Only later did I understand was actually the science of, I'm not a scientist, so I only could write down what I saw and then later verify this is exactly what scientists say would happen. As the waters of the Pacific Ocean where this stone, this massive burning stone fell, were boiling, and the aerosol that was coming up off of this water moved up into the upper atmosphere, and a whole series of hurricane movement started moving across the hemispheres of the Earth. And then a second very large part of this stone that had broke off of it evidently as it entered into the atmosphere impacted the Earth and ignited a series of volcanoes. And all of this material was being blown up into the upper atmosphere and getting caught in the jet stream and was moving around the Earth, and very soon, within a period of days, darkening out much of the sun and the moon and the stars.
영화 그린랜드는 바로 이러한 소행성 충돌을 다루고 있습니다. 해당 영화에서는 정부에서 소행성 충돌 가능성을 은폐하여 큰 재난이 초래되는 상황을 설정하고 있죠. 영화 줄거리 중에는 상당히 의미심장한 내용이 등장합니다. 바로 사람들이 피난하는 지하벙커인데요. 유럽에 떨어지는 초거대 운석 충돌을 피해서 사람들은 그린랜드의 지하벙커로 피난하게 됩니다. 그 과정 속에서 사람들에게 표식을 나눠주죠. 해당 표식이 있는 사람만이 벙커에 들어가는 선택받은 사람들이 됩니다. 영화 속 표식 관련 설정은 다소 엉성합니다. 정확히 왜 해당 인물들이 표식을 받게 된 건지 제대로 설명해주지 않거든요. 다만 해당 표식 내러티브는 마치 성경 속 짐승정부 시대에 대한 예고편을 우리에게 보여주는 듯합니다. 또 그린랜드의 지하 벙커가 마지막 피난처가 되는 것도 의미심장합니다. 앞으로 제 채널에서 다루겠지만 북극과 남극은 지구 공동설에서 지하세계로 연결되는 입구, 포탈로 알려져 있죠. 뉴에이지나 각종 신비주의에서는 해당 지하세계 속에는 고대시대의 지구로 와서 초고대 문명을 건설해준 외계 존재들이 대홍수를 피해 지하시설을 만들고 모여 살고 있으며 환각제나 명상을 하는 사람들에게 텔레파시나 빙의, 채널링과 같은 방식으로 의사소통해온다고 알려져 있습니다. 물론 이들은 외계 존재가 아닌 타락천사와 그의 하이브리드 자손들, 네피림들입니다. 마지막으로 인류가 모여 살게 되는 도시를 계시록에서는 바벨론이라고 부르죠. 혹시 북극이나 남극의 지하벙커 시설을 만들고 그곳이 성경이 말한 최후의 바벨론이 되는 것일까요? 또는 해당 지역에 이미 지하시설을 만들어둔 소위 외계 존재들이 따뜻하게 인류를 맞이하고 여기에 입장할 때 표식을 받게 되는 걸까요? 대환란의 대접재앙 시기에는 태양이 뜨거워지며 사람들이 타죽게 되죠. 추운 극지방 지역으로 인류가 대이동하는 모습이 쉽게 연상되는 부분입니다. 물론 마지막 아마겟돈까지 이스라엘 지역에 짐승정부가 있어야 하니 해당 극지역은 어쩌면 소행성 충돌 예상지역 주민들만 대피하거나 또는 소행성 충돌 시기에 극지역이 피난장소로 활용되었다가 충돌 이후 다시 나와서 세계를 복구하는 그림이 될지도 모르겠네요. 해당 소행성 해석을 통하여 계시록 8장 속 첫 번째 나팔재앙부터 네 번째 나팔재앙까지를 하나의 소행성 충돌 장면을 묘사한 그림으로 해석할 수 있게 됩니다. 아포피스급의 거대 소행성이 충돌하게 되면 대기권 진입 시의 충격으로 인해 보통 여러 작은 소행성 조각, 파편들이 함께 떨어지게 됩니다. 바로 이것이 원인이 되어 피 섞인 우박과 불로 인해 땅 3분의 1이 불타고 바다가 끓어올라 3분의 1이 피가 되고 수중생물이 죽고 배가 깨지며 해당 충돌 여파로 낮과 밤의 하늘 3분의 1이 어두워지는 것인지도 모르겠습니다. 즉 일련의 나팔재앙들이 소행성 충돌 장면 하나를 묘사하고 있는 장면들로 다시 읽히게 되죠. 하지만 그 중에서도 해당 소행성 충돌과 함께 물 3분의 1이 쓰게 된다는 것은 어떤 의미일까요?
I think we're getting close, and here's the other thing that you made a point a moment ago about the waters becoming bitter after the impact of wormwood. And see, I believe, Gary, Tom Horn is not the scholar that you are, not by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just an old fat preacher who happens to be a publisher now, and sometimes I write books, but I speculate about things that I find to be interesting because there's a whole conjunction of other things pointing to the year 2025. You've had Ken Johnson on your program talking about the Essenes and how accurate they were. I mean, 200 and some years before the birth of Christ, they named the year that he would arrive, the year that he would die in 32 AD, the fact that he would be God in flesh. That was not a traditional Hebrew belief that he would die for the Gentiles. I mean, this is amazing, highly accurate prophecies. Well, guess what? They also prophesied 2,200 years ago that mankind will enter into its last generation in the year 2025. There's just so many things that point to that year that I'm not saying that's when the rapture is going to happen or the second coming of Jesus. I'm saying there's a lot here to look at, and then when you couple that with everything else that's going on in the world. But back to my point, old preacher Tom Horn preached himself plumb out of the text again, right? And that is, if you look at Revelation 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, finally arrive at 13.
Yes.
And in Revelation 13, he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. I believe that Apophis is carrying an alien microorganism on it that has a virus in it. And on impact with the earth, first of all, that's what poisons the waters, but it also rapidly gives rise to a contagion that's going to make coronavirus look like a walk in the park. I predict that literally millions of people will be dying by the hour with the arrival, because we'll have absolutely no natural immunity to this virus. It's an Andromeda strain, right? It's bringing something with it the world has never seen before, and it does seem to explain much of what is happening, all the way from the waters becoming bitter over to a trigger event in Revelation 13 that causes everybody to have to receive this mark of the beast. It was my wife, Nita, 15 years ago that came up with the theory that that's going to be a virus and a vaccine is going to be the mark of the beast. And it's become probably the most popular idea on the planet. I definitely believe in it, but I believe that Gary, that explains a lot about what we are reading here, starting with the arrival of Apophis in the third trumpet of the book of Revelation 8. Yeah, so the role that America might play in the arrival of a global dictatorship. 10 years ago, the highest intelligence agencies in the United States, working with like 15 nations across Europe, they produced a document. Anybody can Google this and download it from government websites and read it. But it's called Global Governance 2025. There's that year again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At a critical juncture. And what they imagined, these intelligence agencies, is what could happen? What trigger event, or events plural, could set in motion the need for all of the nations of the world to lay down their differences and rapidly come together in mutual defense of one another against an unprecedented existential threat. Almost sounds like Ronald Reagan standing before the United Nations saying, "I often wonder how quickly we would lay down our differences if suddenly we were posed with a threat from outer space," right?
Yeah, I remember.
But these guys are saying the same thing. They imagined it as being here by 2025. Now, what trigger events did they see? Number one, the incoming of an asteroid in which we learn, right?
They said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what an amazing statement.
That suddenly I was going to put it in my words, that NASA's been covering up. Their words, it suddenly becomes obvious that this thing is going to impact Earth, and it is big enough to represent the destruction of all life on Earth. The only asteroid we know that's coming close to that, that's going to be here by 2029, is Apophis. And the whole series of events that it could set into motion. That was one of the things they said. As it becomes obvious, all nations of the world rush together to form a single global government, right? Because we have to work on behalf of each other. They also said around that same time there could be a global pandemic that then is going to require mandatory stuff like vaccinations, the suspension of civil liberties, all of which then also set into motion the arrival of a global totalitarian form.
And they said this when?
This is over a decade ago.
All right.
And again, anybody can go Google it. It's just called Global Governance 2025. Right. By the way, because you've had experts on your program lately talking about artificial intelligence and the dangers of threat.
Yeah.
Guess what? From memory now, but I think it's around page 35 of that report. Guess what they also list as a trigger that could set this whole thing in motion? The emergence of a new form of humanity. Now, again, these are not geeks sitting in a Microsoft office somewhere, meandering around about their next space novel. This was the highest intelligence agencies in the United States and Europe working together, and they imagined that through biotechnology and combining that with artificial intelligence systems, a new form of humanity could emerge. Well, guess what? The prophecy of the Cumae Sibyl on the dollar bill, Anno et coeptus, Novus Ordo Seclorum, these are derived from her ancient prophecy. But what was it she said? Not only would a global new age come, a new world order, over which Apollo, who's identified in Revelation 17:8 and other places as the spirit that's going to inhabit the Antichrist, not only would he arrive, but it says he will come down as a new form of humanity. 'Tis thine own Apollo reigns when the golden age rolls over again and gods and men are unified once again. It sounds very much like the mighty men of old which were born out of the sin of the watchers.
Does. We have come full circle. Is what you're...
해당 소행성 충돌 나팔재앙은 짐승 정부의 전 3년 반 기간 동안에 일어나는 일로 해석이 됩니다. 우리가 앞으로 맞이하게 될 적그리스도의 시대를 세상에서는 어쩌면 소행성 충돌과 그에 대한 대비로 바쁜 시기로만 생각하게 될지도 모르겠습니다. 또는 외계 존재가 나서서 인류를 구해주는 작업을 진행하는 역사로만 기억하게 될지도 모르죠. 그런 내러티브가 지배적인 내러티브로 자리 잡고 나면 사람들은 적그리스도나 짐승 정부가 성경의 7년 대환난을 일으키는 악당이 아니라 사실 인류를 구원하려는 선한 외계인들일 뿐이라고 생각하게 될지도 모르겠습니다. 마지막 시대의 타락천사들 모두가 그러한 구원자의 모습으로 인류를 미혹하려 할 것입니다.
Right.
There's Project Sentinel, you can look it up, that has tasked themselves with organizing world governments to protect Earth from species-killing asteroids. And you need the world because you don't know in advance until it's discovered what part of Earth it's going to hit. And if it's going to hit in the Indian Ocean, and if the surrounding regions don't have a space program, are the countries that do have a space program going to sit idle? No, what you want to do is you want to have a fund, and every country pipes in a little bit of their GDP, and then, or whatever, you measure it however you want it, whatever you think is fair. Do it the way the UN does it, okay? So there's a tax of the world relative to your wealth. And then that money pays to save the world when we find such an asteroid. That's how the Sentinel, Project Sentinel is.
If suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe, we'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together. We often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. But I've often wondered, what if all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet? Wouldn't we all of a sudden find that we didn't have any differences between us at all? We were all human beings, citizens of the world, and wouldn't we come together to fight that particular threat?
Unity, I think, comes from the fact that they're all in the same risk factors together.
Yep.
And if you and I have the same things that can kill us, that makes us friends.